So we need a motion to receive his proposal here. Is Deputy Mayor Melange, Councillor Baker. All in favor? Motion carries. Our next delegation is Scott Waters and Jeff Sylvester. Stormwater issues relating to SBC-06-13 and any other matters pertaining to the site plan. Welcome, gentlemen.
Good evening. I'm Jeff Sylvester. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We hired an engineering firm to do a site review of the Harrow Home Hardware, and we shot elevations of the existing lumber storage area and proposed a closed lumber storage building. And what our findings was that the steel roof on the building would not increase the release coefficient of the stormwater off the site. So currently the site drains overland through a buffer grass strip into the drainage ditch on the south side of the property, and then there's another shallower ditch that collects water on the west side that drains into the ditch on the south side. So through his calculations, we've determined that we're not increasing the runoff off the site, and there may be a future development on the site. So we were trying to stay away from installing catch basins instead of redoing or doing work and then having it be in the way for future development and having to undo the same work when we are actually showing that we do not require them. So we'd like to have our engineered report be accepted rather than install catch basins on the site.
If I may, Mr. Nepsey, what they're proposing, is that what you've recommended in this report?
Through your worship, no. That's why they're here tonight. I guess backing it up for council's, a little bit of council information, urban stormwater, what is it compared to other things? I think maybe a little bit of education here. Urban stormwater is the pollution that runs off, the stormwater, it rains, whatnot, it goes off the buildings, it goes over the parking lot, picks up anything in the parking lot and gets into our drains in our rivers and our lakes. It's an increasing source of pollution for us. It's a different source of pollution than conventional pollution as far as sewage pollution or whatnot, because that's very controlled and very specific. So what you get in that stormwater, you're getting sediments from the parking lot, you're getting whatever pollutions are, from the cars, salt from the parking lot, et cetera, et cetera. So what we ask for as a result of both new development and redevelopment, and Mr. Waters and I have talked about this, is we're asking that these stormwater management system be taken place on those properties. So both new and redevelopment. It's our chance to improve the stormwater quality that's entering our streams and rivers. So although I've talked to Mr. Waters and his engineering report, and his report speaks to volume, and I agree with his engineer that the volume of water, because of he's taking away gravel parking lot by putting roof on, but when you're doing the engineering calculations, the total amount of water that's flowing to those isn't changing. I agree with that, but the water's still getting to the drain, and it's our chance to clean it up. So what we've asked of him is a very rudimentary system, which we've asked of recent applicants as well, that have gravel parking lots as well, to put in catch basins, because although that water is getting into the gravel parking lot, it is flowing through the stone and it's getting to the drain. So we're asking him to trap that in the catch basins, polish it by a very rudimentary means of they're called Goss Gully catch basins. So basically it traps the sediment in them and doesn't allow any oils or anything to get into the drain. It's just a fancy catch basin basically before it enters the drain. So that's the system that we've talked about with Mr. Waters. I liken it to if I had a propane tank that expired a year ago and brought it in to get propane at his shop, would he fill it for me? probably shouldn't. Well, why not? The tank's been good for 20 years. It probably will work. It holds propane just as well, but things change. Things expire. It's our chance to better the environment and better our town. So, you know, Mr. Waters is here with Mr. Sylvester, and they're asking that be, I guess, stricken from the site plan agreement for those reasons. As I said, we've had recent applicants that were asking to do the same thing, and they're moving forward, completing those. So, a summary. I guess that's the summary of that. So, no, it is against what Mr. Waters is against for what we're asking for in the site plan.
Any questions, council members? Councilor Baker?
Thank you, through your worship. A couple of things, I guess, to the applicants. My understanding, Mr. Waters, is you suggested that you're going to do some other future development there?
Well, my plans will be down the road, yes.
Okay. And currently, right now, you're building a
Lumber storage.
a pole barn storage. Is that correct?
Correct.
For
It's
the
not
storage?
a parking lot either.
Right. So none of it's not going to be paved.
Pardon me?
It's not going to be paved.
No.
No. Okay. So now, if I can, through your worship, to Mr. Nepsey. So if our volumes aren't increasing at this point in time, so we're really just using this as an opportunity to, like you say, to provide an updated system, right? That's what I'm hearing.
Correct.
But yet our flows aren't going to change, basically. We're just using this as an opportunity now. Could we not look at this, and then there is some future opportunity for some development there? At that point in time, there is going to be would then be some increased flow, obviously, and that's where they can invest their money at and what, because you're saying to me is this is just it's an interim steps type of a process as opposed to a full catch basin. If we could then invest properly when they do look at future development to put in a full catch basin system, because right now we're not increasing the flow, as I understand it from hearing from both parties. So could we not save that opportunity for when the future investment comes, so we could that's where they need to put their dollars in more for the future as opposed to now? Because we're just doing it because we can, not engineered purpose or not technically, other than it's an opportunity, as I'm hearing.
Correct, Your Worship, but that's an if and a when, and it's something that we've asked of recent applicants, and they are proceeding with it. So there's a potential for, you know, those applicants to come back and say, why should I continue down this road when I may expand in the future as well, and I may, why don't I do it at that time? So yes, it's an opportunity, but that's the application we have right now. I don't know what the future holds.
And if I can, through the proponent, through your worship, what would the additional added cost be to putting in these catch basins as being suggested?
Approximately $10,000.
And what's the total cost of the project at hand, roughly?
Well, when it's all said and done, it's going to be around 200.
So it's a 5% additional cost that you would use for, obviously, maybe some inventory to sell?
Absolutely.
Okay, Chris?
If I can add too, when we talked to Mr. Waters about this as well, if he has an idea of what his future plans bring, this is something that is not lost infrastructure. It's something that can be installed now, and he can build around it. So it's not something that he has to put in now and take out when he changes. If he knows what he's looking at doing, it's something that he can do now and reap the benefits down the road.
So just as a rebuttal, I think I understand what you're saying, and you, Chris, are an engineer, and you're looking at numbers, you're looking at it, and clearly they're saying that the numbers, they're not increasing the flow. What we're trying to look at here, and while $10,000 may not seem a lot, it is when you're in a private sector business trying to grow, and we're growing opportunity in Harrow and area. I would suggest that we could look at this in the future when they do increase and when the flow does change, so that they can put their money into the development part of the growth. That's what I would suggest.
Mr. Phillips?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, I think what the engineer is saying, and certainly with the arguments were put to me when this item came to discussion at administration, is one of being prudent environmentally, and that is a mandate that the council has given to its administration, is to look at improvements where we can improve the eco structure, I guess, of our environment. And what Chris is talking about in terms of polishing, I wasn't aware of that either, but the amount of runoff that he is speaking about suggests that if that can be improved, even small iota, that it is improving our environmental world. So it's one of capturing a little bit of the oils and a little bit of the runoffs. And I agree with the comment that it is a change, in due respect to the councillor's comment. If everything had stayed the same and there's no increase in the amount of runoff per se, but if there's an ability to put in improvements where we can, we cause it upon ourselves at times. In this particular case, an applicant has come forward and asking to change an existing system or to add, and that's where it's being looked upon as being an environmental improvement.
Thank you, sir. Deputy Mayor Malash.
Through you, Your Worship, to Chris. So, going forward, and we've already started the process where any commercial or industrial development is going to be requested to have this kind of stormwater management.
And they have in the past.
And anytime anybody wants to not do this, it's like, how would they know in advance that this is going to happen so that they can build these costs into the projections in advance? Like, is it part of when they come for the zoning?
It's part of our
application, or
development standards. It's part of the discussions early on. I think Mr. Waters, well, you had the pre-consultation. I mean, you got the letter from the engineer to address it in some fashion, as far as that goes. So it's in the development standards.
I found out last week regarding this.
Okay, Mr. Sylvester.
If I may, I guess the implication that the stormwater is currently running off the site without any polishing is unwarranted. There's 15 feet of grass before the stone runs off into the drain at the road, and then there is a grass-filled ditch to the west. So we could restrict the flow out of that small side drain into the main drain at the south side and reduce the flow, and thereby allowing some sediment to settle into that grass ditch. But there is polishing happening by passing through buffer strips. We use them on farmland all the time by planting a buffer strip around the land. So there is some polishing that's happening.
Mr. Nepsey.
Through your worship, that's fair enough. But that's part of the stormwater management plan. If that's the plan that Mr. Waters chooses to address, as far as there is polishing on site and an engineer is willing to put that this is sufficient and does the same as what we've suggested as far as catch basins and Goss Gully traps and is cleaning the water and protecting the environment, then that's something we will definitely review. I was unaware of that strip. That's the first I heard of it tonight. So that's definitely something. If they have an engineer who's willing to put that stormwater plan into action that includes that, then definitely we'll review that for sure. That would be a potential fair compromise, yeah.
Thank you. The stormwater quality, I guess, wasn't really, I wasn't aware that quality was an issue. I was more concerned about control. Our original back and forth between Scott and I and the engineer was restricting flow to control, and then the engineer said, well, here's the release coefficients calculation. But there is considerable polishing through the grass strips, and we can get a letter to state to that effect.
Then I'm glad you came tonight.
Okay, Heather has a comment. Is our planner.
Your Worship, members of council, I just want to make it clear that we did have minimal pre-consultation on this application. The site plan control application actually came in February at first, but we responded to the applicant indicating we needed a better quality site plan with more information. We didn't have fees that were submitted at that time, So the fees were required. We also indicated that a stormwater management and servicing plan was required. And I gave him Richard Beausoleil's phone number and email so that he could contact him directly to get more information in that regard. We asked for a copy of the deed to the property and also asked for some building information. So there was some pre-consultation, and there was, the applicant was directed to gather more information in regard to stormwater management back in March. This was dated March 25th of this year.
And Mr. Nepsey.
I was just going to say, and I think how the report is structured is that we can go away tonight with a yes, as long as we're working through on the stormwater management, that we'll come to some agreement on that.
Not a yes to this report, a yes to their request.
That's included. Yeah. Yeah, yes to the report. The report says to the town's satisfaction as far as stormwater management.
right.
So we note, we're trying to keep things moving, noting that we have a stormwater issue to work out, and as long as it comes to our satisfaction, then they won't have to come back here, and we can get him building.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, we can provide a letter stating that we will satisfy the water quality.
Good. Councilor Baker.
So having heard all that, good discussion, thank you, and it sounds like a really good compromise here. I would move that we accept this report to the satisfaction of the town and the supporting letter for a stormwater management that does the polishing. Okay, thank you.
Seconded by Councilor Bondi. Any questions to the motion? All in favor of the motion? Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, number 8, reports from administration. Corporate Services, report number clerk 2013-06, January 8th. Councilor Bondi, supported by Deputy Mayor Malash. Any questions to those dates? We can always change them in the future. Okay? All in favor of the motion? Motion carries. B, Corporate Services Report Number Clerk 2013-07, Quarter Revision, South Rear Road and Campbellside Road Drain. We're looking for 3 members again. Councilor Baker is a volunteer. And anyone else? I guess I'll volunteer. Monday, January the 6th. Town has nothing planned, right? No. Our next council meeting in January is the 13th. But I do believe our treasurer asked us to keep every Monday night open in January, so 3 of us.
Can we change that date then to accommodate our Monday schedules? Can we change this report?
Probably all set up.
It has to be, as I understand, so many days, and so I would say no, it can't be changed.
So we accept this date and then we just look at a Tuesday maybe for our budget meeting instead, just add another day in.
That'd be okay. Yeah, okay. So we have Councilor Baker, Mayor McDermott, and we need one more. Deputy Mayor Malash for the 6th. Okay? All in favor? Big Bear. Oh, we didn't get a mover? Oh, move that? Yeah, Bill and Sherry. Okay? All in favor was unanimous. Thank you very much. C is planning, report number 2013-40, revisions to R2.1 and R2.2 zoning district and bylaw with regards to Kimball Estates. Looking for zoning bylaw 1037 as amended as follows. There's Deputy Mayor Malash. Yes, sir. Supported by Councilor Baker. Deputy Mayor Malash.
Thank you, through you, your worship. So Heather and Jeff, I know you're the experts on this. I'm just wondering, is this basically everything that we talked about at our public meeting about a week ago?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, it's everything we talked about at the public meeting. There were some changes to address Mr. Valente's request, and as well as the Woodview Estates. So basically, what we've done is brought consistency now to most of the subdivisions, and the same standards will now apply to everyone.
Thank you.
Councillor Bowman.
Was there any feedback from the Kimball subdivision?
Yes, there was, and Brent is here from BK Cornerstone, the builders of the townhomes there. We had some discussions about what the intentions are and how we're accommodating them with their next phase of construction. And as far as I know, everything's fine.
It's always good news. Okay, anything further? All in favor? Motion carries. D, Community Service Report number 2013-020, New Year's Town Sponsored Events. This has regards to all the free skating and swimming and everything over the holidays. Councillor Baker moves, supported by Deputy Mayor Malash. Any questions? Yes, we may all attend. Councillor Bowman.
Hopefully this will be circulated to the youth. And obviously they find that there's a lack of communication, so we're not getting through to them. So, I mean, let's find out why we're not and making sure they do.
Good idea, Marley. Maybe we need to send an email or something to the schools, Doug, or however. I don't know. What do you think?
Through your worship, that is the purpose of these reports, to start getting media attention to the good things we do, and part of it will be additional marketing through our Facebook and everything on these events in the next report as well.
Very much, sir. Anything further? All in favor of the motion? Motion carries. E, Community Services Report number 2013-021, Tim Hortons Free Skating. Good. Deputy Mayor Malash and Councillor Baker. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries. F, Planning. Report number 2013-42, Realc Energy Incorporated Solar Farm, 172 Forest Avenue, Town of Essex, Ward 1. Oh, missed.
Thank you. I just wanted to comment, the original proposal was for 11 ground-mounted solar installations. They're proposing 14 now. But it has no real impact one way or another as far as the overall approval is concerned.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Councillor Baker. Rich.
So, through your worship, to Don, I guess I'm going to direct this question. Does this, I think we talked about this at the board meeting, but this does not change our investment contribution in this project from the town's point of view?
Through you, your worship, at this point, I have to bring forward a report to council on whether or not there's an interest in contributing to this project as a partner. I hope to bring that for the next week and set up a special meeting with council for that.
So by us approving this tonight, we
This
don't
is
affect
not
any financial at this point in time?
No, absolutely not.
Deputy Mayor Malash? Moose? Councillor Bowman? Okay. Any questions? All in favor of the motion? Motion carries. G, Corporate Services, Report Number Clerk 2013-08, Procedural Bylaw Amendments. First one's to amend Bylaw 548 and 1110. Rules of Order and Procedure for Municipal Council of the Town of Essex and its committees. Councillor Baker, or Councillor Bondi? Councillor Baker with a comment. Yes, sir.
I do. So, the fact that Cheryl isn't here, I'm hoping somebody can help me with this, and probably Russ. So, what we're doing is we're changing council discussion to new business, is my understanding, in this part of it, under new business. Is that really the change here, other than the fact that our timing has changed as well? Does it really do anything to our procedural or what information we can bring forward and how?
Through you, Your Worship, I think that's a correct assumption in terms of or a correct description of it's changing certainly where we've had discussion or the notion of discussion to nominate it more as an opportunity to discuss new business. Again, your agenda is approved effectively at the beginning of each meeting, so it would be expected that as your agenda is being approved, that if there was new business, a question should be asked at the beginning of the meeting if there is new business, and then there's an opportunity for council then to take to account what new business there is. If there's an agreement upon that, then it's added to the agenda. If not, then it's not going to be discussed that night.
So then that's what my question is then. So when we had council discussions, it had to be notified within the appropriate time prior to council, so it could be on the agenda. We were asking that time to get some supporting information. What I'm seeing now is new business can be just brought up that time without any background whatsoever?
Through you, Your Worship, again, correct. The intent is though to monitor the activity. If it becomes too onerous and there's too much discussion, again, council will have to determine whether or not that's an appropriate change. But I think there was a sense from council, or at least administration was understanding, that you wanted more opportunity to discuss items that do come up. I think administration at the same time has items that do come up from time to time. I know we had one recently where approval needed to be addressed and we didn't have the timelines to get that onto the agenda, so it was a matter, could we introduce something? So I think by the change in the procedural bylaw allows us that opportunity to add items if there's the consent of council, consensus amongst council, or agreement to include that item. I think council can also determine whether or not you want to, and we haven't put that into the procedural bylaw, but perhaps the notion of, do you want to go as far as providing first, second, and third readings to something? If there was a motion made out of that discussion, perhaps those are the things depending on how you play that. I think some of them you're going to need to be able to address immediately. Other items you may say, for the purposes of tonight's discussion, simply discuss it. You might pass a motion, you might give motion, give it first reading or second reading, but then leave it off and give administration the opportunity to do its homework, come back with background and research, and perhaps a recommendation guiding council's further decision on that.
Yeah, and that was why I raised the question, because I see the need for having part of the agenda that says new business, something comes up. I'm just concerned, without any background, that it becomes, how do we monitor it? It becomes an open opportunity to bring anything you want forward without administration getting any background whatsoever, or the rest of council. That's why we have notice of motion, I guess. If notice of motion says, I'm going to bring something up next week or next agenda, and I'm going to do some homework for you, or I'm going to bring it up. New business says, I can bring up anything I want, which we put on the, how do we monitor this? This is my concern. I understand the need for it. New business comes up because something's happened this week, which is important to get on the agenda, but what do we do to monitor that?
If I may, again, through you, Your Worship, it's council's approval of the agenda that allows that comment to be made. So no, you will know it at the beginning of the meeting. As you approve the agenda, the intent would be that if Councillor Bowman, for example, wanted to add something to the agenda, he would raise it under the agenda, as the agenda is being approved. I want to speak about X, and that will be included with the agenda or not. It depends on whether council wants to, if it's seconded and there's favor to add that, then it's added to the agenda. And I think what that allows is those last minute items that administration has, where I know we've had that where the ministry or some outside agency will be coming at us saying, listen, you need to have this approved, And we've missed the agenda cutoff in those 3 or 4 days, and we've got to get it done for timing. If you recall, the grant application just recently was one exactly of that. We didn't have an opportunity to, kind of slide those things in. So if we'd been able to move those things in, you can get them onto the agenda a little quicker. So I think it's a workable, it's something to try to address this, which we understood you to be struggling with. We're not struggling, but having some issue with. This is giving you an opportunity to work around, a bit of a workaround. Again, it's not a perfect science.
Councillor Bowman.
I think this is something where the council members themselves have to take some responsibility to make sure you're not putting something or forcing something through that can obviously wait another week to have some more feedback. And those things unfortunately come forward more often than not. That those are the things that should be on notice of motion or brought forward and to be looked at in the next meeting. This is an opportunity to throw those out there so they can be looked at, but not acted on in that meeting. So it sort of serves two purposes, but council itself has to sort of police themselves on that.
And I think we're just getting back what we used to have, but controlled. Like the clerk would always say, oops, I have 1 or 2 items that have to be dealt with tonight. But then we as council members would throw something on there, and I think we abused it, so. But we do have control now, this way. Yes, sir.
Thank you. So that's my question then. When you suggested it was abused in the past, what's the control? Do we get to, at the beginning, so for instance, if I wanted to bring up something in whatever it might be, an interest of cycling, whatever the case might be, are we going to, as council, going to be able to discuss and approve that through a discussion at that point, whether we have it on or not? I guess, where does the control come in? I'm hearing there was some abuse before. That's been my concern, that it's not used for some kind of platforms, I guess I would say. That it's used for real business.
Well, I believe that's what Mr. Phillips has stated. It comes up. Do you want to listen to it? Do you want to deal with this tonight? Or do you want to first reading it, if it's a motion? And I can't see anything coming up that evening like this that needs a motion. But
okay, so then I suggest,
and we can turn it down, is what I got.
I suggest we try it and see how it works. That's the bottom line, I guess.
If I might, Your Worship, I think Councillor Bowman hit the nail on the head in terms of self-monitoring, self-policing. Certainly there's an opportunity for folks to take a stand on, for council to take a particular position or make an announcement or pronouncement on certain issues. That occurs from time to time at council meetings. But I think if it's an agenda item that the majority of council agrees with putting it on the agenda, then there's an expectation you're ready for the discussion on that. If you're not, then you might ask the proponent of that particular motion as to what their point is, get some clarification, and if you're not ready for it, defer it. Put it on the next agenda.
Deputy Mayor Melange.
I just want to make one point about this. So what's going to end up happening is that somebody's going to want to say, there's dogs barking in my neighbor's, I've got a call from a resident and there's dogs barking in their backyard, and I want to have that addressed tonight. So now the rest of council says, no, we're not going to deal with that. Well, why not? Or why are we dealing with that tonight? So I'm just saying it's going to lead to more confrontation, I think, and unless we deal with everything, and it's going to get to that point. So maybe it'd be confrontational in the beginning, and we'll all learn as we go along what's acceptable and what's not, I guess. Thanks.
Okay, Councillor Bowman.
That's a classic example where it should be returned over to administration to investigate and come back with a recommendation.
Exactly.
So I want it on for tonight so that we can recommend it to administration to look at it. What do we say to that one? Okay, thank you.
I think my answer would be go to the office in the morning or make a phone call and let them deal with it. You know, who needs to deal with it. Those are issues that we don't need to deal with in council chambers. You know, those are the issues we're talking about that we don't have to deal with. So things like that, I think we should say as a council, no thanks, go to the right place. You know, it's not here. That's all. For the question, all in favor of the motion? Motion carried. H, Corporate Services Report number 2013-42, water and sanitary sewer rates. Okay, supported by Councilor Baker. With a question, sir.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have to find it. I think I noticed in there, and maybe I can get a quick answer from administration. There was a slight difference in increase in Ward 3 than the rest of the wards. I think it was, I'm trying to find it, I highlighted it, there it is. 4%. This was for, this is percentage for total sanitary sewer per year. And maybe can I get an explanation as to why its percentage and rate is greater, a little bit greater than the rest of the wards?
Donna?
Through Your Worship, back just before we did the last study, which was done in 2012, one of the reasons we did the study was the Ward 3 sanitary sewer reserves were not keeping up with what was anticipated they would be sitting at. So this is trying to get those reserves up a little bit, so that's why you see a difference for Ward 3 than the rest of the wards.
Makes sense. And that's the only reason I raise that, is so that the public know that we're doing this prudently, that we were not collecting enough in the past for future capital, and now we're doing that. So we're really kind of catching up a bit, is that what we're saying?
That's
so
what we're
we
saying.
could see over a period of time then, how long before the reserves are built up to a point where you feel they're necessary, I guess?
When San Watson did the review, they had estimated between 5 to 7 years the reserves would be caught up to where they should be. But of course, depending on what unexpected capital things come up in the interim.
So would I be safe to say the residents of Ward 3 are going to look at a little bit from year to year for the next couple of years, a little bit more increase than the rest of the wards?
That's correct.
It's good to know I have to be able to answer that question.
Anything further? All in favor of the motion? Motion carries. We're down to correspondence. Ministry of Citizenship and Immigration, Volunteer Service Board, call for nominations. Move and have it put on the Facebook page. Yep. Supported by Councilor Baker. Any questions? All in favor of the motion? Motion carries. Essex County Agricultural Hall of Fame. Nominations for 2014 Hall of Fame induction. Deputy Mayor Malash, move, proceed, and put them on. Mr. Baker, any questions? All in favor? Motion carries. Jim Oakley, Colchester Village Fest Committee members. Looking for appointments. Councilor Baker?
I just have a question. Is this to tell us who's on the committee, or is there more openings to go on the committee?
I think there were a number that he wanted to appoint, and this is one of them. Oh, Doug.
Through you, Your Worship, in June 2013, when it was approved as a council, those members were currently on it, and there was one new member, so we just wanted to make sure it was up to date.
Okay. Good. Anything further? All in favor of the motion? Motion carries. D, Windsor Essex Provincial Offenses Program, Annual Report. Move receipt. Councilor Bundy, Councilor Baker, any questions? All in favor of the motion? Motion carries. Windsor Essex County Environmental Committee meeting minutes, November the 7th. see Councillor Bowman and Councillor Baker. Any questions? All in favor of the motion? Motion carries. Committee meeting minutes, Essex Accessibility Advisory Committee. Looking for receipt and approval of the resolution. Okay, Councillor Baker, supported by Councillor Bonnie with a comment.
Thank you. I hope Council supports the International Day of Persons with Disabilities, and that would be tomorrow. So maybe we could get that on our Facebook too. And every day or every year around this time, there is an International Day of the Persons with Disabilities, and each year highlights a different component. This year is Opening Minds, Closing Barriers. So we want to bring awareness that there are people in our community that exist that have some type of disability, and it aims to promote an understanding of disability issues and mobilize support for the rights. So that's it.
Okay, all in favor? Motion carried. You got your wish. B is Mural Committee, October 16, 2013. For receipt. Deputy Mayor Malash. Councillor Bowman, questions? Deputy Mayor Malash.
Thank you, Your Worship, to Doug. Or actually, not to Doug, I think to Russ. We talked about the infrastructure cost of repairing the silos. Has this dollar figure been relayed to the Mural Committee? And the reason why I'm asking is because if you look at their worksheet, the cost of project in repairs, it has $500,000 listed. And I'm not sure if that was the number that you had suggested. Or I know I've heard a number, but I thought it was higher than that.
Through you, Your Worship, the number is higher than that. I believe Doug has been in communication with Chris on this, or with their group. I'm pretty certain that they had privilege to the core of the report in terms of the infrastructure deficit that exists right now. But it's in range. The consultant or the engineer gave a range, and I think it was between $700,000 to $900,000. I think is the and that those numbers now are 2 and 3 years old. So it could be a larger number than that.
Mr. Sweet.
Through your worship, at the meeting, I did present the numbers from my report to the committee, and that workshop, and Councillor Bowman can correct me if it's wrong, was done a few months in advance. I'm going to say probably back in September, August is when that worksheet was done.
Councillor Bowen?
Some of the numbers that are included in the rehabilitation and the production of a mural, there are numbers that are included in both of them. So if you keep those numbers sort of flexible, it depends on which way you can apply for the grants the most. Whether it's, quite often rehabilitation does not give you as many dollars as actual doing the project. So that's the reasoning for those numbers.
And Councillor Baker?
Thank you, through your worship, to Mr. Sweet. Doug, last council meeting, there was a suggestion made by Councillor Vokes that in terms of funding, that this committee, the Mural Committee, had in excess of $300,000. Is that, have you been able to confirm that, or has that been relayed to you? I think we can look back at our tapes. He was suggesting that he knows that there was $300,000. I think the mayor said, we'll find that out. Were you able to find anything out?
Through you, Your Worship, I'm not aware of any $300,000 in reserves. I know they were applying for certain grants to cover the cost, but I don't believe anything's in reserves.
Okay, because I just wanted to clarify that, because the last council meeting, it was suggested that, well, they had that money, and then that's when the mayor was saying, well, we'll find that out when we go to committee. So so you don't know of any money that they have there? Okay.
Councillor Bondi?
I really hate to be the realist in the room, but in these economic times, whether it's our taxpayers in some sort, whether it's our staff doing fundraising, whether it's Trillium or the corporate sponsors, the big three, the Chryslers, the solar, the wind. I have a hard time putting support behind this right now when we're losing jobs. We can't feed our families, many of us, and yet Essex is going to stick their neck out and say we want the biggest mural in Canada, and I get that we want the biggest mural in Canada. I understand that. I just think the timing is really, really ill. And I am concerned, like our CEO said at the last meeting, that we have to look at this structure and make sure that we're not open to any risk. And that's my focus right now. I would like to see the cost of demo, which I don't think has been confirmed yet, and take it from there. And boy, I don't know, even 500,000 or 700,000 from fundraisers, that 500,000, that 700,000 can go a long way. It can just feed a lot of people or fix a lot of roads, or, you know, it could do a lot of more smaller murals throughout the whole entire municipality of Essex, rather than, you know, one that we're not even sure is structurally sound. So I think council really needs to have this. I am one of 7, I understand that, but I think council needs to have a really serious discussion at the end of the day, and I know it's a bit political, so me being from the southern end of the municipality can say that this is stretching it. You know, we have a woman coming from Kingsville begging for $10,000 for a veterans museum, and we're going to stick our neck out for $900,000, and it's all one taxpayer too. It's all one donator too in this community, and money's getting harder and harder to come by.
Councilor Baker?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Just to somewhat clarify that, but support that, this council has never suggested that they were going to pay for anything on this particular project. What they did say is, if you look, they brought a presentation forward about what the cost would be to do this, that had some opportunity. But yes, we do know there's a risk in terms of this report, and that's where we're at right now. In order to move anything forward, they need a plan. They need a plan for fundraising and a solid plan. I don't disagree with what you're saying, but it's the work they put behind to do a plan. We've never ever suggested at this council that we would be putting any taxpayers' money into this. I just want to clarify that. No, I'm not saying you did, but when we're saying to feed a family, whatnot, I mean, when you go raise money, you raise money for certain projects. I suggested this would be a tall order as well. Not just the size of them, but it would be, I agree. But you're equating different things. With somebody's laid off, is different than fundraising. But I agree. We've never suggested that this council is going to put taxpayers' dollar into it, ever.
I'd just like to add to the discussion. I see your point, Sherry, but this group here, the mural committee, as in their report, they're funding Big Three, Chrysler, Ford, GM, tire companies, Pepsi, the themes for the painting, but then corporate sponsors, solar, unions, banks, oil companies. These people are raising that money, and it would be nice too if we could get a group like that, but we do, the good fellows and everything to assist us. And this is just another group that's trying to get something done, the same as the good fellows do, the Salvation Army does for the needy in our municipalities. I don't want to be knocking them because they're trying to do something that they see and take pride in doing. This project here, like Councilor Baker says, we have not committed a cent, May we? I don't know that. It could happen, but I don't know. But we don't want to look down on these people because they're trying to do this. If they don't do it, God bless them for trying. That's all I can say. Ready for the question or more discussion? Deputy Mayor Mosh. Yep. Sure you can.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So these minutes that we're reading right now are October the 16th. And I know that Doug,
Yep.
Can we ask him what came of the meeting in November, just so that we have a rough idea of?
Sure can.
Because this leads us in one direction of belief, maybe there is a different one. What happened at that meeting?
Through your
Would you
worship,
explain?
even prior to that, I did the report to council to have go to budget deliberations for cost of demolish or to repair. That was brought up at that committee, so they are aware of that it will be coming up during January budget deliberations. They still wanted to apply for grants, which their chair has. I know they did receive just recently back from one grant that they were not successful. So they understand the situation, but I think they wanted to move forward in applying with grants that they had, but they do realize the town may looking at that for a different area or a different use.
So the committee understands the safety aspect and why we're looking at this. The repairs that were brought forward in the report that CEO Russ Phillips brought forward said that they had to be done in a timely fashion. And the report was 3 years ago. We should have already been working on some of these repairs if we wanted to make sure that these silos were safe. So do they have a clear understanding that something has to happen relatively quickly?
Through your worship, I can only say from my conversation with the chair that he is understanding, and I know the meeting I did attend, he did also bring that up, that he concurs. Whether the other members agree, I cannot speak to that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ready for the question? All in favor of the motion? Motion carries. C, Committee of Adjustment, October 15, 2013. Councillor Baker moves receipt and adoption. Councillor Bondi, any questions? All in favor of the motion? Motion carries. D, Municipal Heritage Committee, October 24th, 2013. Mr. Baker, supported by Deputy Mayor Malash. Any questions? All in favor of the motion? Motion carries. E, Communities in Bloom Committee, September 24th, 2013. Deputy Mayor Malash moves, supported by Councilor Bowman. Any questions? All in favor of the motion? Motion carries. Bylaws. A, Schedule B to bylaw number 971, Schedule of Development Charges, revised January 1st, 2014. Councilor Bowman moves, supported by Councilor Baker. Question, sir?
Again, I'm just looking at this report, and Ward 3, Colchester South Service Area, has a higher rate per square, per gross floor area, $1.10 per gross, when the rest are at different. Is there some justification on that, why that is?
Go ahead, Donna.
These development charges were calculated as a result of a background study that was done in 2005, and at that time it was determined that that was the amount required in order to, for people that were buying into the system. This is not quite like the water and sewer rates where you can equate them from ward to ward, because this is built on what the future requirements of that system may be.
Anything further? All in favor of the motion? Motion carries. Bylaw number 1273, being a bylaw to provide for the use of debenture in the amount of $117,987.21 for drains. Councilor Bowman, and supported by Deputy Mayor Malash. Any questions? All in favor of the motion? Motion carries. Bylaw number 1274, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the December 2nd, 2013 regular meeting of council of the Corporation of the Town of Essex. Councilor Bondi, Deputy Mayor Malash. Any questions? All in favor of the motion? Motion carries. Financial, the October 2013 check register. Councilor Baker, supported by Deputy Mayor Malash. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries. B, the Town of Essex tax adjustments under Section 357 and 358 of the Municipal Act. Be received. Councillor Bondi, supported by Deputy Mayor Malage. Question from Mr. Baker.
It's just a learning curve for me. What is this actually, this report? This is adjustment for what?
This is due to, through your worship, these adjustments are related to a building that has burnt, a building that has been torn down or demolished, and under the Municipal Act, the treasurer has to adjust taxes. We get the information through MPAC, and then we do the adjustments.
So it's basically a change in classification.
Well, it's not a change in the classifications, it's just a change in the assessment resulting from a demolition or a fire or someone.
Any further questions? All in favor of the motion? Motion carries. Number 15, final. Adjournment? Oh. Moved by Councillor Baker, supported by Deputy Mayor Malage. All in favor? No discussion with that one. Thank you very much. Have a great evening.